And it's always stuck with me. He said that America is a society of being afraid of not feeling good, and that they put all the focus on how do I feel good, like as it's an entitlement of ours
Mm-hmm.
that we have to feel good all the time.
Welcome to Learn or Be Learned. We either learn from others or others learn from us. The former is able to help us become a better, faster you. Follow me weekly as I dig up stories like a true anthropologist would on one of the 3 series called Guest Conversations, Book Applications, or my Small Talk Explorations. I'm your host, Shiva Dhanasekar, and let's talk. All right, hi everyone. So I'm here with Beate Chellette, right? Got it on the first try. So Beate, would you like to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sure. So I am Beate Chellette. An excellent job on the pronunciation,
Thank you.
Shiva. See, I have to do the same thing. It's not
Yeah,
Shiva, it's Shiva.
yeah.
And I'm known as the growth architect. And what that means is that I really am dedicated to helping visionaries and leaders to make their impact by providing them with blueprints and tools to get there.
Mm-hmm. And I read a little bit on your story. You started with 6-figure debt, around 135K debt as a single parent, and worked your way up and sold your business to Bill Gates, which is amazing. Like, that's a great job, which means you must have really known what you're doing, right? So tell us a little bit about your backstory. How did it all start? How did you feel when you were in that moment? I know sometimes looking back, we can brush off those moments because they sometimes can feel long ago or we've come so far from them. I think the audience would resonate well with how you really felt in that moment of, everything didn't seem like it was going right or whatnot.
Yes, I mean, number one, it is certainly an art to be $135,000 in debt and to and to do all of that in a short amount of time. But what happened is that I came, I'm originally from Germany, and I consider myself as someone who really doesn't do well conforming to what other people are expecting me to do. I
Mm-hmm.
always felt that I was here for a bigger purpose, and then I had something to do, and I was on a long quest to make that happen. And very much like many people, probably a lot of your listeners, Shiva, it's not exactly a straight line to go there, but this like crazy roller coaster zigzag thing that doesn't even make any sense. And then, and then as I say, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it. And so when I hit my adversity patch, that was a good 10 years, I call it the decade of bad luck. And I had to figure out how I was overcoming, 7, now 8 disasters. And the disasters that I faced wasn't specifically little stuff. I mean, that was huge. That was fires, floods, a
Mm-hmm.
huge earthquake, riots, September 11th, a lawsuit. And now, I added a pandemic to my ever-growing repertoire
Mm-hmm.
of just stuff that can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so the story is a story of a woman that, just wouldn't give up. And I say that resilience is the audacity to not give up, because that at the end of the day, it comes down to, and fighting my way through, through all these things. And then my dad died. And
Mm-hmm.
so, so now I'm deep into debt. I don't know what I'm going to do. And this is the defining moment of my life where I fly to Germany to drum up some business. And my dad had a stroke. My dad did not have a stroke. My father had pancreatic cancer, and a tumor had metastasized in the brain and caused that stroke-like event. And he died 6 weeks later. And as I am at the funeral, and we literally just had buried him, my phone rings and I get him, my office calls from Los Angeles and says, "You've just been served a notice, so I'm losing the house." And now I am in this moment, I'm on this beautiful place in Germany, Nether Bavaria, on this hill overlooking the valley in front of this Baroque church, and my best friend's gone, and I don't know what to do. I'm deep into debt. I'm a single mom. I have no money. I'm losing my house. I don't know what to do. And I fell on my knees and I yelled at God and I said, if you have a plan, this is a really good time to fill me in because
Right.
this isn't making any sense. And I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
there's, Shiva, a lot of your audience can relate to that where you go, why? What is
Mm-hmm.
this even for?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens, as oftentimes things turn on a dime, I got a letter from the White House. And I got a letter from the White House because I did write a letter to the President of the United States in my complete and utter desperation.
Wow.
And
Who
when I
was
got
it?
it was George W. Bush.
Okay.
And so I get this letter and it says the president sends his best wishes. I'm sure the president of the United States never even saw this letter. Okay, let's just be
Mm-hmm.
really clear about this here.
Mm-hmm.
But what it did, it put me in touch with the Small Business Administration and with the second in command because the letter did come from the White House. And so they were able to help me restructure my debt into a fixed term loan. That freed up my line of credit. That brought me to break even within only 3 months. So I just want you to just pause here for a second and really look at the difference between bankruptcy, complete failure, and making it was 3 months. 3 months. That was all that was. Okay, that's it.
Wow.
That's how close it sometimes is.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly, 18 months later, I'm the world leader in my category. And I am selling like crazy and I run $1 million business. And I didn't even know how all of that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But then a Bill Gates company comes knocking on the door and says, can you tell us how you do it? Shiva, like any decent woman, I said, you want what I have, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
and then they made me a multi-million-dollar offer, and I
Yeah.
had set up my business for acquisition. I this is what I wanted, and so when that day came and the number was met, I knew it was time, and that's how I bought a house. That is how I put my daughter through college, and that's how I then went back into service and helping other people to correct their own code to
Mm-hmm.
become successful. So that's the story in a nutshell.
It reminds me of, let's say, like a gold miner that keeps digging and finds nothing. You never know when that next, just a couple more digs is when you find some gold, right? You just kept pushing, and then eventually some things started working out, and it went more and more in your
Yeah, the
favor.
famous Napoleon Hill story. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Where he talks about the guy that gave up and then another guy
Yeah.
who came in and bought it for nothing and said, "Oh, typically, the gold veins run a certain way." And he literally
Mm-hmm.
what went like 3 feet to the left and there it was, right? And the other guy had given up.
Yeah. And they were saying, like, usually you don't find just one piece of gold. It's usually a good amount is also like together clumped. So that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I say
Mm-hmm.
that when my ship came in, it was kind of a luxury liner
Mm-hmm.
and not a dinghy.
Right. So you had in your bio, you said a first generation immigrant who found herself $135,000 in debt, single parent. You bootstrapped your passion for photography into a high successful business and eventually sold it, right? So what does bootstrapping mean to you in particular?
I think that there is a general misconception around financing one's ideas. And bootstrapping means nothing other than nobody's given you really anything, and you have to figure out how do you find the money, and you have to get really super creative. In my particular way, or my path, bootstrapping basically mean I financed this on credit cards
Mm-hmm.
and all these offer from credit cards would say, do you need an extra $5,000? I'm like, yes, I do. And do you need an extra $10,000? I sure do. Until, it was $135,000 in debt and I needed to borrow money to pay interest on borrowed money. But I've made every single payment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was really the creativity. Bootstrapping is around the creativity on how do you find the money. I didn't really want to give up equity. Now,
Mm-hmm.
for those of your listeners who are thinking about building a business, this is really part of the design of a business model on how do you design it to create it. And so you can there are a lot of people that don't want to be in business for themselves. They want partners, and then they have to give them equity, a piece of the pie. And I didn't want to do that because I was in a lawsuit before, and I certainly wasn't going to tell anybody how I was doing my business. I wasn't going to do this on my own. And that's how I did this. So bootstrapping, in the sense of the word, just means that you get really creative finding money to finance your idea.
Mm-hmm. And then, so it kind of sounds synonymous to the idea of being resourceful, or, finding resources in ways that other people might not, because of you've kind of been pushed against a wall and you have no choice but to find a different creative way. Is this what you meant by failing your way to success? You kind of just had scenario after scenario until you had a creative outlook?
Yes, very much so. So failing your way to success means I find that a lot of people, especially a younger generation, so my daughter is 29, and I am clearly not 20, 30, 40. I'm in my 50s. And so I look at this as a life of a lot of very good mistakes, and really stuff that I did that didn't get me the results I wanted, but ultimately did get me the results that I wanted. So
Mm-hmm.
what you don't know when you go through your adversity, Shiva, is that you go through this and you think that this is proof that you are incapable, or that you're a loser, or that you just don't have what it takes, because your old programming, or the stories that you hear, are the stories of your parents and your surrounding. And usually most of us don't have these adventurous, creative parents or entrepreneur parents, but we have middle class parents that tell us, get a job, make sure you have your income, um, you know, get good benefits, get good health insurance, buy a house, work really hard, and
Mm-hmm.
then you die. And
Mm-hmm.
that somehow seems to be a desirable thing, because it's predictable, and safety and predictability is important for a lot of people. Now, if you're here on this podcast, you're probably questioning on whether or not
Mm-hmm.
that is right for you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the other side of this. So failure is designed to help you figure out what does work. And so failing your way to success is when the failure shows up. And this is where so many people get it wrong. You need to look at failure as the guy or the person or the thing with a stop sign that just holds it up and says, no, don't go here. This is a dead end. It's not worth your time. Just find another way. And then what happens is people throw themselves on the ground and throw a temper tantrum and go like, I can't believe this isn't the right way,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm such an idiot, and I can't figure it out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to have an outdated GPS in your car, Shiva, and you go somewhere and you want to go somewhere, and then you find out that they now closed that road, would you get out of the car and throw yourself on the ground, or what would you do?
You'd find a new route.
Ta-da!
Mm-hmm.
So that's the question. It's like, why don't you just get back in the car, back on the horse, back on the bicycle, get back up, dust yourself off, find another way. That's how you fail your way to success.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think the whole connotation behind failure has, and maybe that's just partially for the education system, kind of making us feel as though failure should be something you're scared of, by giving, participation trophies and things that make you feel like failure is a bad thing and everyone is a winner. And when you push people to that mentality, because life is unpredictable and life has failures, it's unavoidable. So when people, see failure, they don't know what to do other than to say, like, this is not fair, this is not how life should be. But ironically, it is exactly how life should be, because failure is what teaches you where success is.
I am so glad you said that, because the first time, I was an au pair in Key West, living on a houseboat without water and
Mm-hmm.
electricity, taking care of
Mm-hmm.
a 5-year-old. That's how I came here to the United States. And we went to school, and he got an award for citizenship. And coming from Germany, I said, we don't get awards for going to school. That's just what is expected from you. And I said, what's a citizenship award? He says, well, I didn't miss a school day. I said, wait, are you getting a reward for not having been sick? And it to me, it was so confusing
Mm-hmm.
that just you showing up already entitled you to something. And I'm going like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I got news for you. That is not how life is.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you show up means nothing. You're still going to have to do the work. You're still going to have to deal with that. And there's a book I read called The Optimistic Child. And in that book, the author had said, and it's always stuck with me. He said that America is a society of being afraid of not feeling good, and that they put all the focus on how do I feel good, like as it's an entitlement of ours
Mm-hmm.
that we have to feel good all the time, instead of focusing on doing well. Because if we were to do well, we'd be feeling good. But you
Mm-hmm.
can't be a slacker. You can't be binging on Netflix. You can't be sitting at home in your parents' basement and crying over that life is
Mm-hmm.
unfair when you're doing absolutely nothing to feel good. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, where's your entitlement for that? And so that's the piece where I really talk about a lot in my work, to say, you do have to have the mindset, you do have to have the skill set, and you do have to have the action set. And without these three things, and there's a lot of, other trainers, educators, gurus, whatever you want to call them, that speak to that, you can't wish it without having the skill to do it, without the action that follows it. It's just simply not possible. So if you are sitting in the basement and you are depressed, then the question to you always is, well, what are you going to do about it? Other
Mm-hmm.
than blaming your parents, of course.
You're right. I see this as a society of escapism.
Oh my
Almost
gosh. Yeah.
we watch TV, we go to bars, anything to escape reality of, if there's nothing wrong with the 9 to 5, but what's wrong is if you hate your 9 to 5 and then you use the weekend to escape, or if you're avoiding some relationship issues or personal achievement issues and things like this, or you're avoiding failure and using that escapism to feel good, like you said, feel good society, feel good in that moment by escaping the overarching impact of what you're avoiding. And I think if you and you're right, it doesn't feel comfortable. It feels quite uncomfortable to, go head on with failure or something that, isn't a feel good moment. So, but I think the other side of that is when you come out the other side, you feel even better than you would if you had just escaped it for that little bit of enjoyment.
I'm really glad you say that, because it
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely correct that this escapism is chronic, and there's two things that are playing into it. So number one, what plays into it is, of course, social media. Social
Mm-hmm.
media is designed to have you highlight the bits and pieces of your life that are working. And how many conversations have I had where people say, well, yeah, I know that on my Facebook, I always make it look a certain way, but that's not the case. And where it lacks a complete foundation in reality, we as on my end, or where I am at, we are actually in the middle of a strategy that we are rolling out, where I show a lot more vulnerability, where, I'm out hiking without the makeup, without the super gear, dirty, filthy, sweaty, kind of like, here's the reality of what it really looks like to be someone like me, to be a multimillionaire. Here's me dress shopping with my daughter
Mm-hmm.
for her wedding dress. Here's me doing that, because I think a lot of times these things are so misconstrued in and set the bar so high, and then you can feel that you may never be able to achieve that, because you're constantly bombarded with the perfect 10 moments of everyone else, but that's only what, like, there's only like 10% of their lives. They don't show you the other 90%. The
Mm-hmm.
second piece to that is, what makes anyone think that a job that they hate, they'd be better at than a job that they actually did like? I mean, where is that even coming from? That somebody says,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm in a job that pays good money, but I hate it. Well, so that would mean to me that if you were in a job that you loved, you would be A, better at it, and B, you probably would make more money. But that
Mm-hmm.
hasn't even sunk in so many minds of people that they feel that the 9 to 5 job has to be suffering because they have to
Mm-hmm.
hate that. Now, if you hate the politics, it's another thing. There's something we can do about that in how we organize and help these teams. But for the most part, is about the taking responsibility, Shiva, for
Mm-hmm.
saying, this is the first question I ask everyone. So maybe I should ask this to your audience. And when you listen to this podcast, go in the show notes, go to iTunes or wherever you listen, and put that in the comments so we hear this. What is it that you want? What is it that you want? Now, if I
Mm-hmm.
ask a 5-year-old, what do you want? How long do you think it's going to take him to answer that?
Seconds.
Right. If I ask you, how long is it going to take?
A lot longer.
So where did we lose that ability? We lost this ability because we have unlearned it. Because when you said, I want a pony when you're 6 years old, your parents told you, are you out of your mind? Money doesn't grow on trees. That's outrageous. We're working so hard. Whatever they told you to make you feel bad about wanting a pony. What's wrong with wanting a pony? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they not say to you, oh, that's a wonderful idea. Let's brainstorm. Let's see how we can make it happen. If it's even
Mm-hmm.
possible for us. What's the difference between that? Or if you say, well, I want to be an entrepreneur, and I want to help other people to live better lives. Ooh, that's not how are you going to be paying your bills?
Mm-hmm.
Assuming
Be realistic.
oh my God, what realistic by whose terms? If you go to Warren Buffett, is Warren Buffett realistic? Is Mark Cuban realistic? Is Barbara
Mm-hmm.
Corcoran realistic? Is Beyonce realistic, or is she unrealistic? I mean, that if you watch a documentary from Pink, and I watched the documentary about Michael Schumacher the other day, and I will tell you that they all have one thing in common, that they decided that this is what they were going to do, and they would not give up until they found a way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So we in life have two choices. We allow others to tell us, you can't have a pony. And then you run around with a core wound for the rest of your life. I really wanted a pony. And if I would have had that pony, my life would have been very different. And I'm exaggerating, of course. But if I said something different, if I would have encouraged you, then, maybe you'd be 25 and you say, I didn't get that pony, but my parents always said, you have a right to create what you want. I'm 25 years old. I just bought my property, my farmhouse, because I did X, and guess what? I have 2 horses in my stable, right? What makes you think that that's not possible for you? So
Mm-hmm.
the voices that we listen to, and I have the same thing with my mom. I mean, don't think that my mother still talks to me like this, even though I am a self-made multimillionaire, the most successful one in our entire family. She still talks to me about, should you be taking all these risks?
Mm-hmm. I often tell people, life is difficult because of no matter what, life will be difficult, but life is difficult for one of two reasons. Either you are living in your comfort zone or you're trying to escape it.
Oh, I love
And
that.
both have their own.
Oh, that is
Mm-hmm.
so good. That is
Right?
so good. Did you hear? Did everybody hear that? Do you
Yeah.
need to say this again so they're really hearing? That is big wisdom.
Mm-hmm. I saw that somewhere and it really resonated. It's very concise on exactly what we're talking about.
100%.
Mm-hmm. And so here you have a 5-star success blueprint. And I think this ties in nicely with, the idea of success, the idea of facing failure. What is this blueprint that I'm assuming you used and figured out to have a company be sold for multiple millions to, Bill Gates and whatnot?
Yeah, so the idea was came from that once I sold the business, I retired for like a week. That was really awkward. And then and then I decided, hey, if I figure this out, especially as a woman immigrant, that there'll probably be other people that can benefit from the information. So I am by nature a strategist, and everything in my head is systematized and organized, and is being spit out one by one by one by one. And so I recognized that the more I did this, that there really was a method, not just to the way I did it, but the way I teach it. And the 5-star success blueprint, and I'll just take you through this very, very quickly, goes by the steps that it takes to really build a business or an idea of any kind. So number one, you start with the idea. And the idea is, why are you the person to do this idea? Why is this idea unique? Who are you selling this to, and why do they need this? The second piece is the offer. Once you know who the person is, what they need, and why you are the right one, then you can design the offer based upon what you know that their problems are that they need solutions for. The third piece is, once you have these two pieces, the idea and the offer, now you need to create a system. How do you get the leads in the door? What's your sales process? How are you reaching them? What is your CRM? What is your whole way of doing business? What's your standard operational procedure? That's when we start building the systems. Number four is, once you have the idea, the offer, and the system, you need the people. So now we're talking about the team. How do we build the team? How do we create an organizational chart? How do we build this out? And then number five, that brings you to yourself, the leader, because once you have the team, you're going to step out of the day-to-day into more of a business leadership. And that's where the transition from a business owner to a business leader occurs. And that's in essence the 5-star success blueprint.
So I had a question. It often seems, especially in today's time, that the idea of being an entrepreneur is more enticing than ever before, right? Everyone wants to say, "Oh, I started a business. I'm an entrepreneur now." Everyone wants that title. They want to branch out, try things. Do you think it is wiser to, work, find skill sets, try new things, and then eventually start a business? Maybe let's say you're 20, maybe 5-10 years from now, or start one sooner than that and kind of learn from there?
The answer really is it depends. I mean, the one thing that I'm really anti is, and I ask for forgiveness in advance. If I see another cute woman with long hair in an oversized sweater, a glass of Cabernet, sitting in a kitchen telling me that in 4 hours a week I can make an extra $10,000, I will vomit. Okay. Do not
Yeah.
fall for that. The only person that's going to make any money is that person, because it is bullshit. Entrepreneurship is, you work 60 hours so you don't have to work 40. And you do that because you believe in the idea and you have passion to make someone's life better, richer, or more powerful, or to help them solve a problem. You are giving up everything to get to the point that I got to, where you either sell your business and you cash in, or where you have created a business model that is based upon your idea of either having a lifestyle or an equity type of business, or a business for acquisitions. But that has to be designed. So the first step is really for you to get clear on, why would you want to be an entrepreneur? Like, what do you hope to get out of it? That brings us back to the question, what do you want? And once you know what you want, then we can design the model. And that's what I do. I, just had a conversation today with a new client, and she is making, multiple six figures as an employee, and she wants to start her own business. She has lots of ideas, but she doesn't know which idea it is. And so we decided that we were going to flesh out these ideas and build the business model, the overall overarching idea first. which is following my system, the idea has to come first so that she can then go out and succeed building that business, and then we determine what her exit point is when she can shift from that to that. So being an entrepreneur is not what you think it is for the most time. Everybody I know is an entrepreneur. We work Saturdays and Sundays. Our phones are always on. What we do that other people don't get to do. If I want to leave tomorrow, I can pack up my laptop. I can go skiing. I can go to Mammoth. I can work a couple hours a day and I can do whatever the heck I want. And I don't have to tell anybody that I'm doing it. And I have the money to afford that. Now, that is the reward of entrepreneurship, but you got to get there first. So there is no right or wrong. There just is, you got to make sure you got some sort of money to finance that. And you're going to have a plan. And so I'm going to just tell everyone, if this is something you're considering, I have done a class on Creative Live. So you go to creativelive.com and you look for my course called Turn Your Talent into a Business. It's super cheap. I think it's only it's like under $100 or something. And I did that specifically for anyone who wants to figure out if they have what it takes to be an entrepreneur and have a foundational business plan, at least in broad strokes, so that they can go out. So I would go and do that before I do anything else, because that really will help you to identify where to even start.
So when you personally have goals, how far out do you plan? You know how people often ask the common question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's often a job interview question that they'll ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? Is that how you plan your goals, or do you plan your goals? Is it more so project, how long will this take me, or time period, what can I get done?
My goals are impact driven. I do not encourage anyone to make goals money driven, because Princess Leia said to Han Solo, if money is all you want, money shall be all you get. I do not recommend that at all. Money is a vehicle, not a solution to anything. Wherever you go, on whether you have money or not money, your problems are going to still go with you and you're going to be the exact same person. What you're not going to have the problem is paying your bills. That does take a lot of stress off. I'm not going to lie about that. It's exponentially better to have money than not have money. But my goals are measured in impact. I believe that if I impact a lot of people, the money follows. So, I mean, I definitely want to sell this business again, because, at this point in my life, I have done a lot. I have achieved a lot. I have worked very hard. I've impacted a lot of people. I want to turn it up one more time, as and I've been really pushing it. And I want to sell one more time my business, and then I'll see, maybe after that I'll do speaking engagements and small, more of the, when they pay me $20,000 a day to speak, I think I can do that. But I do want to think about some of the things that are now important to me for my life. I'm engaged. I'm actually moving in with my fiance this weekend, which, for all of you who don't have love, you never know when it's going to come in your life. And so do not ever give up hope. And so now the question is, what do I want to create for myself? And it definitely involves love and relationship, because that was just something as a single mom that wasn't available to me for a very, very long time, because I had to make the money and raise my daughter. And how much impact can I make from here on out? So I plan out, I want to say at least 5 years out, because time at where I am at, 5 years is nothing. I mean, it's like a blink. I think that when you're 25, 5 years is a really long time. But when you're 50, 5 years is nothing.
Okay, so lastly, do you have any other quick advice or messages you would like to give the audience? If there was one point that you wish that stuck, in this episode, or one idea that has been the most impactful in your life, what would be that one piece of advice or idea or message that you'd like to give the
Don't drown
audience?
in a puddle. I mean, if you're gonna go down with a ship, I mean, at least make it be the ocean, make it worthwhile. But
Yeah.
this like little petty shit. I mean, sometimes when I hear people
Yeah.
talk, oh my God, I have $10,000 in debt, and I don't even know. It's not worth declaring bankruptcy for $10,000. At $150,000, you have a point, okay? But this like desperation over things that are really not a big deal. I can make $10,000 in a day. So
Mm-hmm.
don't get caught up in the petty stuff of life. So just remember, I will not drown in a puddle. I will not drown in a puddle. I will not drown in a puddle.
Right. I used to be a Starbucks barista once, and when I served drinks, let's say we ran out of a certain type of cup lid or something, or we only had flat lids instead of dome lids. Some people really would get so upset by the smallest things in life. They'd be like, "Oh, are you really out of dome lids? Like, this is ridiculous." And they get really angry. And then I would walk away from the window and be like,
Did
is
that just
that really
happen?
is that really a big, is that really a big problem in their life that they had to yell at someone else about, a dome lid on a cup? Like, I think people often don't shoot for high enough problems.
I
Like we
love
said, we
that.
talked
Yeah,
about
don't,
failure
shoot
and
for,
avoiding it,
shoot,
right?
if you shoot for problems, shoot for big problems. There you go. That's another one. I might steal
Yeah,
that.
don't drown in puddles.
Yes, it's along the
No, go
exact same
ahead.
lines, is
Mm-hmm.
that make it worth it. If you pick a fight, make
Mm-hmm.
it worth it. If you fail,
Mm-hmm.
make it worth it. If you take a risk, make it worth it. Because rewards don't come to people that don't take risks. And the second thing I may want to add to that, now that I think about it, is you're going to have to take the first step for the second to appear. It can't show up unless you committed to taking the first one. And people go like, well, unless I have the whole list of the 10 steps that are going to get me to my goal, and the goals have to be smart. I don't very rarely talk about smart goals. That's not in the mindset piece of how we're going to get there. That has no relevance. Smart goals are actionable, executable goals, but smart goals are not working for your life or the path you go. In spirituality, mindset, in universe, in God's work, whatever you believe in, you set the intention, you take the step, and then the next one will appear, and then the opportunities show up.
Right. I think we often forget people took that first step. When we see success, we don't see what was behind the curtain, and we see the 10th step or the 30th step, and we often forget they took that same first to second step. And sometimes you don't have the whole 30 steps planned out, but I think that first step is
You're
crucially important.
100% right. Yes. So that probably would be my parting words to your audience, Shiva, is to be really clear about
Mm-hmm.
you're not a victim, but the result of your life is because of decisions you have made. You want a different result, you're going to have to start to make different decisions and take bigger risks.
Mm-hmm. Well, Beate, I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm so thankful for having you on here. You've
Thank
been
you
a
so
great
much for
guest.
having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.